You know how sometimes all you really need is something that shakes you by the shoulders and gets you so fired up you can't not do the scary thing? And then other times you're craving a deep, heart expanding, soul softening chat about life and meaning and why any of this matters. And then sometimes all you want is an unhinged conversation with a friend that reminds you how young, stupid, and wildly alive you are. Yeah, I get it. Well, this episode is all of that in one conversation. Welcome back to Lost and Found, the podcast where we're figuring things out in real time together. I'm your host, Carmen Vit. Well, actually, now that I think of it, today specifically, I'm not your host. Today's episode is a little different. Instead of being behind the mic, I'm actually on it as a guest. So, about a month ago, when I was still in Udaipur, I was interviewed on the Kindred Roads podcast by the lovely Mary Goggin. And this is a show that I've genuinely loved listening to for a while now. It's a beautiful space for travel lovers, adventure seekers, creatives, and really anyone just chasing a life that doesn't quite fit the template. And I promise you, if you love Lost and Found, you'll love the Kindred Roads podcast. So go give it a listen, and I think you'll find your people there too. What followed was one of those rare, unfiltered conversations that felt more like a deep chat with a friend than a formal interview. This was such a fun episode with Mary. I tell some stories that I've never told before. From crashing a motorcycle in Nicaragua to losing my passport in Uruguay to running out of money mid-trip without even enough to buy 2-minute noodles on the street. But we also talk about the deeper stuff. We talked about the mess and magic of solo travel, untangling family expectations, getting creative with how you earn a living, finding yourself after feeling lost and burnt out, and, learning how to trust your gut, especially when the path isn't clear. And it was just such a beautiful, inspiring, energizing conversation that I felt like I had to share it here with you all. And if you've ever questioned the blueprint or wondered if there's more out there, this one's for you. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Today on the podcast, we have Carmen Weed. I am so pumped that you're here. There's so many things that we have in common and also so many things I can learn from you. I'm so inspired by your writing, your travels, the way you just put things into words that we all are thinking it, but you're expressing it and putting it in a way that just makes so much sense and makes people feel seen, people that are in the same shoes as us with our unconventional lives. So I'm just super grateful to dive into everything and hear about your travels. Could you just start out by just introducing yourself, maybe a little bit about your background, where you're at in life now, just a bit of an overview.
Yeah, well, firstly, Mary, thank you for having me. I love your podcast and I just love the community of people you've created here and the types of people you interview. And I find it very inspiring. And I love that you put stuff out there that really help people create the lives that they want for themselves and create their own blueprint. So that's very cool. I'm Carmen Vit, and I am 24 at the moment. I'm currently in India, in the north of India, in Udaipur, which is one of the most beautiful cities I've ever seen in my whole life. It's I got here and I thought it was Venice, honestly. I'm also in such a nice hostel with a lake view and everything. So really grateful. Right now I'm working online. I work for a marketing agency based in London. So I'm doing the whole digital nomad thing. But my journey has been kind of weird because I've been mixing kind of backpacking with digital nomading. So it's not always very clean. It's kind of messy. I studied in Stellenbosch University in South Africa. So I'm from South Africa. And I majored in literature, philosophy, and history. I always loved learning and books and stories and education. And the last part of my degree, the last 6 months, I went on a 6-month exchange to the US, North Carolina, actually, funnily enough. Yeah, so I was in Greensboro and I just picked my classes in a way that I would have every Monday and Friday off. So I would hop on a Greyhound bus every weekend and just go somewhere else by myself. I went to Washington, D.C., Boston, ended up in Martha's Vineyard for like a week during off season just by myself in their only hostel. I went to LA, Virginia, Kentucky, like literally anywhere that I could find myself. And that's really the trip that made me realize that I love solo traveling, even though it was mixing these little weekends with the more structured time of being on an exchange program at the university. And after that, I realized I just didn't want to go home. I wanted to keep traveling. So I ended up going to Southeast Asia for 3 months, the classic backpacking trip. I didn't make it very far. I did 3 months, but I did Malaysia and Thailand and a little bit of Cambodia, and then I completely ran out of money. I found myself because I was just doing it on savings and I was freelancing a little bit. My parents were completely against the idea. So they said, if you go, you're getting no financial support from us, nothing. They just don't have like solo traveling isn't a really big thing in South African culture, especially for my parents. Nobody they know has ever done it. So they were like, if you're not doing an exchange, if you're not going to university, you want to go to Malaysia to do what exactly? And I was like, I'm going to work in a hostel. I'm going to volunteer with World Packers. And they said, you just finished a 4-year degree in philosophy and literature. Now you want to go do reception in Chinatown in Malaysia? I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. I think it's a great idea. I went, and about 3 months in, I found myself outside of a hostel in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. And I was looking down at my bank balance, and I just had no money left, like literally not even enough money to buy instant noodles or anything. So I called them and I asked them, can you have a freelancing gig coming in 2 weeks' time? Can you just send me like $20? I mean, in Southeast Asia, $20 goes a long way. And they said the only thing we're paying for is a flight home. Oh, home I went. I got on a flight. I went back home. And I just promised myself that the moment I got an online job, I would be out of there because by that time I knew that nothing lights me up more than being in new places, exploring new countries, meeting new people, different cultures, and like kind of meeting new versions of myself along the way, figuring out how my heart stretches and breaks and adapts in new places and figuring out who you are when nobody who has known you your whole life is there and that expectation isn't there. And I realized, well, I've always been deeply curious about life. I've loved storytelling. I've loved learning things. So in a way, travel is just a continued education. So yes, I wanted to travel. I knew that then. I stayed at home for about 3 months then, trying to find an online job. Briefly dabbled in working for a publishing house, but it was lovely. But I realized that I really do want something that gives me geographical freedom. So I found this content writing position at this marketing agency in London. And the whole team, it's a startup, the whole team is remote. The whole team is like under 28 or something. So it's a really fun, young culture. And that when I got that job, I just booked a one-way ticket to Brazil and I didn't look back. And then I spent like 9 months, 9, 10 months, really just making my way through South America into Central America. I probably still would have been on that trip, but sadly, my granddad actually passed away about 2.5 months ago. And so I had to fly home after 9 months to just support my family for a bit. And then I had to make the decision, do I want to go back to South America and finish what I didn't finish? Because I made it all the way up to Nicaragua, but I still wanted to do Guatemala, Mexico, and like the western side of South America, because I did Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, the Caribbean. And I just thought that, later in my life, I'm definitely going to go back, but something is just calling me towards India. And yeah, I've been in India for 2 months. But like I said, it's been a weird version of digital nomading and backpacking because I'm not fully a backpacker. I work a lot. I work full time, like 8 to 5, sometimes even longer. But then a lot of the times I don't have enough money to just do the whole digital nomading thing where you're living in an Airbnb all the time. So I would be living in a dorm with like 19-year-olds who are just partying, but I have to get up at whatever time and I need to work. So it's been weird balancing everything. But right now, I feel like I'm in such an amazing space of my work life and my living situation is really coming together. And I feel like I've found my balance and my flow. And I'm learning every day how to make this a long-term lifestyle.
I really want to hear, first of all, about like the family situation because that was like the hardest thing for me. They tried their best to support me. They tried their best to give me love and grace, but like they really had no idea. Like never had left the country except maybe like once. My mom still hasn't left the country, and my mom like grew up not as much like low income. Same with my dad, and like they both had to work their butt off to get to where they are now. So like for me being like, yep, I worked all this like work so hard to get into like this good university. I'm actually don't want to be here. Just gonna go
Yeah.
leave, do my own thing, like work, go do an online school, like online university from like like random university. Anyway, it was like really hard because like I feel like I was always really supported by them with like just succeeding in school and everything. And again, like
Mm.
the reason I'm doing this podcast, I didn't have anyone in a similar boat. Even the people on my gap year were happy with what they were doing, and I was like, okay, this is really hard. So can you share about that? And then maybe also about like your remote, like getting a remote job? Because so many people like number one question they
Yeah.
get is how do you get a remote job? And then also I'm sorry about your grandfather. I'm really, really sorry.
I relate so much to what you said about the family thing because I, in high school, I was so aware of my reputation of being this perfect good girl, like getting straight A's and, just making my family happy, making my parents proud. And my mom is actually like a Christian minister. So she's very, very, I grew up in a very conservative community, but I always thought kind of differently than the rest of my family and the community because I think that like I said, I was always into books and reading, and that really widens your perspective. So I was always, I knew that there was more out there and I wanted to see it. And my parents were super supportive of me my whole life, as long as, I fit the box of what they thought success was. And then when I finished university, and I now have my degree. And in their minds, oh, she's going to do her master's degree. She's going to do her PhD, which is something I want to do. I love academia. I do want to go back into it at some point on my own terms. But I knew I needed to take a few years off. And my parents, even now, are very much like protective, like crazy about my safety, really just wants me to be home. I grew up on a farm. So everybody in our family basically lives on this farm. So the family is very tight. And now I'm the first one to be like, actually, I don't want to be here. Not because I love them. I love my home country. I love South Africa. But there's just so much more to see. And I feel like the people I've really connected with who really understand me are people I've met traveling and not necessarily people from my home country or my community. So when I started traveling, they were really like, we went through this whole phase where they thought I was going through something. They thought I was losing my mind. They thought that getting tattoos. They're like, what is happening to my daughter? And these little stuff like that. So our relationship definitely went through a bit of a dip, but I think it's back now. I think they realized that this is really what makes me happy. And it's been like 2 years away from home. Obviously, went to go visit one or two times, but I think they realize that I'm at my happiest when I'm doing this and that I can look after myself. I mean, my mom still ends every call with, please come home. So I don't think that's ever going to change. But in her own way, they're supporting me more. And I really appreciate that.
That's so good. It's really, really relatable. Like I feel so seen. My parents are also very, or my dad especially, very conservative. As conservative as it gets, and as like didn't get an iPhone until he was in his 50s. Oh, I'm so excited. to Also, later dive into the philosophy part because, like, oh, you're right. I'm like so like I love reading philosophy books and also or like I don't read a ton of them, but I love like reading a ton about philosophy and like a lot of the books I read are like there's one called like the Universal Christ, but it's like basically about God and all religions throughout science, time, space, all of it. Anyway, it's so fascinating.
Mm.
Can you also speak about the like remote job situation about just like how you were
Yeah.
able to get that? Because that is like so hard for so many travelers, and that's like one of the things that just is obviously like holding people back because they're like, how am I gonna make money? But I can't get a real
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. I was always really entrepreneurial, I guess. I mean, I was in high school and I started this poetry page, an Afrikaans poetry page, which is my home language. And it kind of it blew up a little bit. And so when I was like 18, I started making merchandise for the page and I would have these little cups with my poetry on them. And so from that, I had saved some money. And that's how I did my first trip and how I paid for a lot of my travels through the US when I was on the exchange there, along with a scholarship. But then after I like burned through all of it, no savings in Southeast Asia, I came home and I was like, I need to get a remote job. So I was on Freelancer, Upwork, all of these sites, and just nothing stuck. I was like putting out aside like 3 hours every day to just apply to anything and everything, just not being picky, just wanting something that will give me the freedom to leave. And eventually I found a job on LinkedIn, which is this startup. So the company is about 5 years old. And like I said, everybody is under 27, 28, which is very nice because everybody else is like, we want you to have at least 5 years experience and like these qualifications and all these ridiculous things. But also you need to be young and full of life, and it feels like impossible to get a job. And a lot of remote jobs still require you to be in one specific country for tax reasons. So they want you to have a base, or they want you to come to the office once a week. So it's really difficult to get something that just gives you complete freedom. And I think I got really lucky because it was a startup. It gave me the flexibility of being wherever I wanted. And I also had to prove myself. So I got hired as a freelancer at first, and which is like no money. It's like what you said, somewhere between like $7 and $13 an hour. And I started off with that, and I stayed in the country in South Africa for a little bit to save up some more. And then after about a month of just putting out good content for them, they said, okay, we have a full-time position. And the moment I got that full-time position, I just booked my one-way ticket to Brazil, and I didn't look back. But it was kind of difficult because in the beginning, I had to coordinate with UK times, and I was in Brazil. So my workday started at 5 a.m. And at that point, I was still like starting salary, and it was South America. It's not like Southeast Asia where things are super cheap. So I really was living in like backpacker places while having a full-time job that starts at 5 a.m. every morning. So I also just started. So I would go out at night, go partying, get back, sometimes immediately log on for work, like work 8 hours, take a little nap, go out, like just no idea how to balance everything. I think I'm getting better at that, definitely. But also learning how to budget. And I mean, at one point, my budgeting was so bad and I just refused to go home that I was working my full-time job and I was volunteering at a hostel in Costa Rica just so that I didn't have to pay, because Costa Rica is so expensive. So just that I didn't have to pay accommodation costs. And I was so burnt out, but I was in Costa Rica and I was like swimming in the beach during my lunch. So I was swimming in the ocean during my lunch breaks. So it was worth it.
I'm really glad that you're also sharing the behind the scenes about like, I feel like social media, obviously, as everyone knows, it's just a highlight reel and you just have to always look at it in that lens. And I just think it's so refreshing to hear like that, like when you want this lifestyle of travel and adventure, like it's not just working a few hours and then you're suddenly like the whole time you're traveling and having the time of your life. Like those moments, it's just like this beautiful chaos that is so worth it. But it's like, it's not this, like it's never like this perfect balance, of half travel and half meeting people, going out and about. But like that's what also makes it beautiful. And like I don't know, I don't know, I appreciate you opening up about that, but it's all worth it, and it's all like it's like I wouldn't want anything else either. Also, I wanted to say I literally reached out to this company because I was like, I was like, you can hire me as your salesman because I've already gotten like 5 people to sign up. But anyway, what I'm doing right now, I just forgot to tell you, always free ads for them. Okay, do you know Trend Shopping?
I love Trusted House Sitters.
That
I've used them before,
You have to do
but
it.
I've heard so much about them and people just say
Uh-huh.
it's great.
I'm obsessed. Literally, I'm obsessed. This is like my saving grace for everything. There's ones that for like a month, 2 months. You can go to Australia for 2 months. If you just like put your notifications on, stay for completely for free. In the US, like Charleston, South Carolina is like it's where if I live in the US, it would be Charleston. But like they have like these like really, really nice houses for like a whole month, 2 months that you can stay for free. Dog sit. And that's what I've been doing this whole year. But I'm glad that you've heard about it. I just have to tell you, if you're ever struggling with finding housing, Trusted House Sitters is the way to go.
I definitely want to check that out.
Anyway, you have to pay like I think it's like $250 or something one time, but for a year. But like it's so worth it. You save so much money. Anyway, I have to tell you, I had to mention it because it's like I'm obsessed with Trusted House Sitters. It's the thing that like is making me be able to do this podcast and not have to stress so much about money.
It is a thing. It's so crazy how once you're in this lifestyle, you really learn about little things that you can do that make it so much easier and so much cheaper. Like I mean, World Packers that I mentioned, that I'm hosting my group trip in December with World Packers. So the trip is to Bali and it's all centered around like volunteering. We're going to be volunteering with marine life conservation, cleaning up the coral reefs, and then also doing our open water diving licenses at the same time. So really excited. Go check out my website
And
and
what
more
are the dates?
information. It's 6 to 16, 6 to 16 December this year in Bali.
So exciting. Yeah, my
I'm
goodness.
so excited.
I
I mean,
to go.
Yes, please come. You're gonna be traveling with me and 10 other amazing people. But yeah, so World Packers, I mean, I started traveling while volunteering with them because you can just go to these incredible, weird, unique experiences from like shepherding goats to working in hostels to working on a boat and like literally so many different experiences teaching English. I've done that as well. And then you can live for free. And a lot of the times they would even give you food for free. So once you start looking into these things, you realize that it's a lot cheaper and easier to actually do this than people think. Because I mean, I'm sure people talk to you about this all the time. They think it's this unimaginable thing to start traveling or travel for such a long time. And I think people would be really shocked to know on how little money I actually travel, especially in the past. Right now, I'm in a phase of my career where I'm a bit more focused on my work. I recently got a promotion, so that's really exciting.
Congratulations. That is amazing.
Thank you. So I'm in a space now where I don't necessarily have to be volunteering all the time, but I also can't because I have a lot more responsibility and I'm a lot more focused on my work and my own like creative projects, like my podcast that I also just launched, which you were a big inspiration for, by the way. Just like seeing you doing your podcast and hearing that I putting in your podcast, going for a walk and feeling like you're chatting with a friend, you know, somebody who really gets it, who's talking about stuff you really care about. That was a big inspiration for me to start my podcast, Lost and Found. So yeah, it's giving me space to focus on my work and also being in India. Things are very well priced, so I don't have to worry too much about finances at the moment.
Okay, I want to hear more about your creative projects and the podcast. Like, what are the topics they can hear from or hear about, and what are the other creative projects? You can also talk about your writing too. Like, you have of your writing. This writing is like I usually go to Pinterest and like just like to look through quotes. I would love to actually read more philosophy books. Let's be honest, but I love to go to Pinterest and I'm like, okay, she started doing amazing. Her account like went viral. Everything's great, but she also is like, I don't know if you are, but on Pinterest, you should also post all your stuff because like
Yeah,
reading like the
thinking about that.
Pinterest. I feel like I'm reading the Pinterest ones that like inspire me that I was like I would save every single one of these. But anyway, also talk what you're writing because it's really
Thank
really
you.
like healing in a lot of ways.
Well, thank you. Writing has always been like a part of my life so much, like breathing. It's not really something that I had to put time aside for. It would just always, it would kind of impose on my life instead of the other way around because I would have to work or I'd have to study and suddenly I'm just writing a poem or I'm writing something. I mean, I remember being 15, writing a book, like my first English novel, and pretending to be, I would wake up at 4 a.m. at 15 that I could write for 2 hours before having to get ready for school. And then if I'm too into it, I would fully pretend that I'm sick so that I could skip school to just write. So it was it was always just a part of my life. I don't know if you know this, but I don't think a lot of people know this, but I'm the youngest published author in South Africa. I published my first book when I was 12, actually, which is pretty crazy.
No
It's
way.
in Afrikaans. Yeah,
That's amazing. That is huge. When you said that you've like always been entrepreneurial, I was like, okay, yeah, you know, like when you're maybe like 16, 17, 12, or 11, I guess when you start writing or something. That's amazing. Oh, that is
honest, looking back at it, I'm like, how did I do that? As a little 12-year-old kid, I was just so passionate about it. And I fully believe that if you just do what you love, the work will flow out of you and opportunities will flow to you because it just comes so naturally. So I think that's really what happened. And then during high school, I got this little part-time job working for this Afrikaans magazine and I was heading their young women's division. So that also gave me a lot of what's opportunity or exposure to leading projects and doing something creatively with like, follow through. And then I published my first poetry anthology when I was 19. And then from there, kind of just started the blog um, and did the little Instagram things like the poetry on the side. And right now I am working on the podcast and I'm working on a book that I'm really excited about. I've always loved fiction, but right now I feel very called to write more, not necessarily memoir style, but stuff that links my personal travel stories with inspiration, with teaching people how to travel. And yeah, so a little bit of everything. I'm thinking Dolly Alderton meets Bull Bryson, if that makes sense. We'll see. A lot of things going on at the moment.
Oh my goodness, girl, this is so amazing. I'm also like, I'm such a believer. Another thing for this podcast that I like, my passion towards or my purpose towards it is like to help people like find their passion and like live lives aligned to themselves. And so I also like to interview people like yes, traveling, but also like showing you people like the you that are like feel fulfilled. Like, but it's like when you're doing the things that you're meant to be doing that you're naturally inclined to do, the work is it's just like I don't wanna say effortless,
Yeah.
but like it's just a beautiful work of art. You feel fulfilled and it's such a gift to other people. Like you're literally born with unique gifts to offer the world and like that's how I really believe that like I personally believe that everyone has unique gifts and strengths that are they're supposed to be doing to give back to the world and like also feel fulfilled because like when you're doing those things you feel happy, you feel like your best self.
I wrote a caption about one of my latest podcast episodes where I was talking about like how you are your best self when you live life for you, because
Mm.
then you feel fulfilled. And when you feel fulfilled and you're the best version of yourself, that version is also the kindest, the most generous. Like you're showing up in the world with love and light and not with like lack and resentment because you're making decisions
Mhm.
for other people, but you're making decisions for yourself that you know will make you feel fulfilled. And in that way, you're also just a gift to everybody else. So it's like a win-win, you know?
Okay, there was like so many of your writings that I wanted to read out for people so they can just oh, I should have read the coming home after traveling one earlier, but it's fine. Okay, we'll just start with the figuring out your 20s one. This one was really good. It says maybe figuring out your 20s is learning to live in the blur. To find presence in gentler, shapeless spaces, to trust that clarity comes not in the waiting, but in the moving. There's something sacred about this in between, the way it asks you to stay open, to hold your breath just long enough to hear your own voice again. If you're unsure too, I hope you trust the slow unfolding. You don't have to have it all figured out. In your 20s, you feel like everyone has it all together, especially with social media. I'm a big fan of social media, but I also know like every amazing thing has its flaws. And one flaw is that like you feel a lot of times that like everyone has it all figured out. Everyone has a dream job. Everyone's, traveling the world or has their person and all this stuff. And like the truth is like every person that I talk to has something like is like not going the way they want and then they want to I just want people to know like that is what you wrote is just shows that like it's not a direct clear path. Like your 20s is supposed to be messy. It's supposed to be all over the place. There's no like path. It's just enjoying and figuring like trying things, finding things you like, your interests, seeing things you don't like, making mistakes. It's like supposed to be messy. And I just loved what you said. Maybe figuring out your 20s is just learning to live in the blur. Like that is so good. I don't know. I'm just like,
Thank you.
literally, guys, everyone listen to her or read her writing. Or she's amazing.
It's actually so interesting that you bring this up because I was literally just this morning, I was having coffee on the hostel's rooftop at the little cafe. And I made a few friends here and I was talking to this one girl. This is also one thing I love about traveling. The people you meet are so open-minded and they're also just figuring it out. I mean, everybody who's traveling long term really is people who want to put themselves outside of their comfort zone, right? And so they're really interesting people to talk to. So I'm talking to this beautiful girl. Her name is Annie from the UK. And we're talking about how in your 20s, you're really just supposed to try on all these different lives. And that goes from deeper things like genuinely figuring out, do you want to work full time? Do you want to travel? Do you want to live here or there? Do you like the European lifestyle? Do you like the more, I think, layered, spiritual, chaotic lifestyle of Asia? Like, what do you want for yourself? But then also it goes to aesthetics. Like I remember we were talking specifically about how in university I was this like clean girl, camel coat, perfect hair, whatever. And now it's like you see people and you're like, oh, I love how you dress that up. I love how you wear your hair. I love how you like those necklaces. And then your 20s are also on a more superficial level there for you to just try on different aesthetics and figure out what is your style because you can change. Nobody is holding you down or holding you to one version of yourself. Although I think that if you stay in your hometown, maybe sometimes we can feel like that because you feel like you have this responsibility towards the people who have known you your whole life. Or one day you'll rock up and you'll wear something completely different and they'll kind of raise their eyebrows and be, hey, okay, who does she think she is? What is she doing? But when you're traveling or when you kind of venture beyond what you're used to and venture beyond the people that have known you your whole life, you can just try on different lives, different aesthetics, different passions. And that's how you figure out what you want to do. Because ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is I'm living this one life because this is all I know, but you don't know the amounts of happiness and love and stuff waiting out there for you if you can just step outside of your comfort zone. That was a whole tangent.
Oh, no, I'm eating it up. I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, and, like, the thing is too that was also really hard for me was, like, feeling like you just said, like, along with that, like, I was in that situation where I thought, like, "Okay, I have to pick one thing. What place am I gonna live? What job am I gonna have?" When I took the first I worked for, like, intern as, like, a social media agency in my hometown. It was always how I was going to, like, finance it. I was, like, hoping that from that, they'll, like, refer me to someone or something. Anyway, I was doing that, but I was like, "Oh, I don't know, like, this is not what I envisioned myself doing." Oh, and then I was like, "Oh, I was so frustrated." I was, like, feeling like this is a set path, and I realized, like, no, it's like you said, just try it and see where it takes you. You can get another job. It's just for right now, and also, like, I love what, like, I remember Mel Robbins said this. She was like, "Pick something and just make it work." Like, you don't need to have a perfect like, there's, like, 1,000 lives I would love to live, and, like, I wanna try as much as I can, but, like, just make the one that you chose for now work for you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't there's, like, so many
Yeah.
if you're always, like, focused on all the things that, like, you're not doing, you're not gonna be as fulfilled. It was just, like, choose one thing that's, like, out of your comfort zone, like you were saying, that feels like something you would like or, like, another good way I feel like that is to a good way to find, like, what you're supposed to be doing is also look, like, who your role models are. Like, that's always your subconscious always talking, like, "Okay, let's try to do what they do and see how it feels." You know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
if you start, like,
that.
wanting to, like, work on something during the weekend that's like, "Why am I wanting to work on this on the weekend?" Or, "Why do I wanna go do this?" Then you should know
Yeah.
that you're kind of on the right path, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And, like, it's just life is just a bunch of curves. It's not like it's never gonna be a set path. Like, then, like, once you
Mhm.
figure it out, if you like, your stereotypical way of, like, "Okay, I figured it out." Okay, well, then you're gonna have a family, and that's a whole then everything's, like, reversed, and then you have to figure out all over again. So, like, I feel like you just have to it's so important to remember that, like, there's no actual, like, cheesy, but destination of, like, "This is where I'm going to end up."
Exactly.
Just enjoy find things you love, enjoy life, like, enjoy it, and if you don't enjoy it, that means you need to take a turn and find something that you're passionate about. That was another long tangent, but
Yes.
that's
No, but I absolutely agree. And if we can get to philosophy for one second, like I'm a die-hard existentialist. Like I learned about existentialism in my third year of philosophy, and I was like, this is my life motto, the structure of my life now. And it's I don't know if you know a lot about it, but it's kind of like Simone de Beauvoir and Jean-Paul Sartre in France in like the 1940s, and the whole philosophy was born out of well, that's not the whole story, but a little bit of it was born out of them not wanting to be in a monogamous relationship. So they loved each other and they were like best friends, but they kind of wanted to have other lovers. And society was just telling them that monogamous relationships are the way that it is. And they thought, but like, says who? And like, who made these rules? Who cares? And if you like really go down into the nitty-gritty detail of existentialism, it's just the philosophy of existing. And the philosophy says that we are all deeply free. Like there is no blueprint, there is no structure, there is no higher purpose or meaning. We are just here and you have to make the best of it. And that can either scare you to death and it can be super depressing, which is like dark nihilism, or it can really inspire you because you realize you have the complete freedom to shape the life you want. And my granddad always said, if you complain to him about something, he's like, you're exactly where you want to be. Like, you made the decisions that got you here. If I complain to him about a test I have to study for university, like, you decided to go to university. You're exactly where you want to be. If you're excited about something, he's like, great, you're exactly where you want to be. So his whole idea was, without him knowing too much about existentialism, he understood that wherever you are, good or bad, you are there because of the decisions you made. Yes, of course, we all are born with different circumstances that privilege us in different ways. And I mean, we start the race of life with a different set of tools, which is fully true. But there's this one quote that I love that says, what happened to you is not your fault, but how you deal with it is your responsibility. And going forward, what decisions do you make to build the life that you want? Like, I mean, so many people tell me I don't have money to travel. I didn't grow up privileged or whatever. Trusted house sitters, world packers. Like, there's so many ways to figure out things and really like just build the life you want as long as you continuously choose this thing that makes you want to work over the weekends, the thing that lights you up, the thing that like makes like sometimes when I talk about this, my face hurts from smiling so much when I'm doing my podcast, when I'm talking to you now, because I'm just so excited about it. It lights me up so much. The idea of really living a life that you're passionate about and realizing that there really is no blueprint. It's all about what you make of it. And that's like a fluffy, me version of existentialism. But yeah, I would go read Simone de Beauvoir.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love it so much. And like, yeah, when you initially said like existentialism, I just remember in school studying it and I thought, oh my gosh, that is so depressing. But then now, like after seeing or after how my life is played out and like how I've developed like spiritually and look at the world, I am now like aligned with the other end that you were saying. Like it is the most freeing thing in the world. And also like I want to say that like, yes, of course, the people listening are also interested in travel and adventure, but if you can't even afford like a flight to go somewhere and do world packers, like just know like you also can find adventure in your own town, like
Yeah.
in your own village, wherever you are, whatever situation you're in. Like adventure and like self growth is all found in by just getting like literally getting out of your comfort zone and doing things that you enjoy and doing things that are hard as well. Like just to grow as yourself and like find alignment. And so like traveling is just all is a method to do those things sort of thing. Like yes, when you travel, you're already alone. You're already immersed with new people, new cultures. You're seeing things are different, but like you can technically travel and or experience the benefits of travel in your own situation. So it's like I don't want
Yeah.
people to feel like they're closed off if they're not like you can't experience this. Like no, 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 no. Like literally every single person can.
Absolutely. I think you have to curate the way you move through the world very intentionally. I mean, it's so easy nowadays to just work, scroll, rot, repeat, right? But if you are intentional with your day, even if you are working a 9 to 5, even if you can't like leave your town where you're living, you can take the end of your day and instead of just scrolling or binge watching Netflix or whatever, obviously I think there's time for stuff like that too sometimes, but just being intentional, saying, today I want to go explore this park in my neighborhood, taking a journal, taking a new book, learning new things, like widen your perspective, take responsibility for the experience of being you. Like you literally just have this one life. Just do something, you know? So go to a park, read a new book, people watch, go to a cooking class. You can get out of your comfort zone in small ways. And in the beginning, it's going to feel a lot. Before you go, it's going to feel like, oh, am I going to meet new people? Are they going to like me? Or am I going to like them? Is it going to be awkward? But in my experience, every single time I put myself out of my comfort zone, it ended up being something so enriching and something that I loved. And I ended up making like true connections because the people that go to stuff like that go to book readings or dance classes or things that are as an adult considered extracurricular activities, those are usually really interesting people who also want to make their lives richer. So you're going to not only connect with interesting people who share your interests, but you're going to grow yourself as a human and your life is just going to feel so much wider than just your work and what you see on social media. And I think that's what travel gives me, but you can also get that on a small level just in the town where you are outside of your work hours.
I love it so much. Thank you for sharing all that. I also wanted to wanted to also hear your advice for people along with that, like another way to find yourself or find your passions or whatever all the things we're talking about is like again through writing. And I just would love to hear your thoughts on that of like how anyone can be a writer, that you don't have to know what you're going to write before you start writing. Like I would love if I can also touch on my experience, but you're way better in this, but like at least for me, from my experience, I feel like writing for me helped me a lot, like figure things out, even though like we say no one ever has it figured out, but like figure out the next step. And I didn't even know what I was gonna write when I started writing. I just like sit somewhere by myself, maybe play some music or like by a river, and I just started writing. And I felt like me being so unscientific, but like felt like my subconscious was like coming conscious just by writing. And then like things that were like I was feeling but like didn't know, couldn't express it, all started to come out. And I was just write and write and write. And like slowly I felt like after more and more sessions like doing that, I just ended up feeling like, oh wait a minute, like I actually have more clarity about my path and like what I'm supposed to do. Writing prompts, I feel like you can get a lot of inspiration from. I feel like you would be really good at like creating something like this, but basically like you're supposed to spend just like at 3 days straight, like writing for hours at a time. And then that's like literally, I swear to you, this is the reason I dropped all my classes at University of Georgia and decided to completely like change the trajectory of my life
Wow.
because of this. Anyway, I'll link it, but I'm just gonna say like it had so much effect on me, and like I wouldn't consider myself a writer. I also think you should look into it, and maybe you could create something for the younger generation. I feel like
Yeah,
that would be really a little idea. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as someone that actually is a writer and
definitely.
studied all of this. This is me. I'm just the newbie.
No, I love hearing this perspective. And you should look into The Artist's Way. It's a book by Julia. I cannot remember her last name, but it's kind of part book, part memoir, part workbook to really help you reconnect with your creative side. And the number one thing she says you have to do is wake up every day, just like free write. So free writing is really keep your conscious mind out of it. Don't think, don't judge. If it's nonsense, just write whatever comes to your mind for like 3 pages or 10 minutes or however long you want to give yourself. And then after a while, you get so, like you said, you tap into your subconscious so much that it just flows. And then when everything is flowing and your subconscious comes to the fore, it's as if you get answers to things that you've been struggling with, but you haven't been able to answer for yourself. Because I fully believe that most of the times we already know if you have answers about your path, about stuff that you're struggling with, you already know in yourself what you need to do. It's just about tapping into your inner knowing or your subconscious or your wisdom or whatever you want to call it. And writing, free writing especially, is a really good way to do that because you take away the judgment from your conscious mind and you just write. And once you're in flow, once it's like coming out, it's insane the kind of clarity and answers you get. Like you said, then just realizing, like, oh, this is actually what I need to do. I need to drop my classes or I need to do this. You already knew. You just needed to tap into like that deeper emotional subconscious side of yourself. So that's the one thing. I love free writing. If ever I want to start writing and I feel blocked, I would just free write for 10 minutes before going into whatever writing I'm putting out there. And then another thing, I think everybody is a writer. Like talking is basically, if we transcribe this and we put it into a document, it will be a piece of writing, right? And everybody's talking all the time. Everybody has thoughts. So you're not just a writer if you sit down and you decide to write a book or a blog post or poetry. There's different kinds of writing. But in its essence, I think writing is just communicating, it's expressing what you experience through language. And there's different ways to tap into that. But if you do want to like be a traditional or want to be a writer in the more traditional sense, I would say just start with your own voice. Don't try to emulate anybody else. Start with free writing, start with journaling, just putting the work on the paper because oftentimes you just need to get over the fact that you don't feel ready. You need to start, and then the readiness comes because you get in flow by actually putting yourself in the space of work. And then things snowball, opportunities come to you, creativity comes to you. I never, if I'm just in a rut and I'm not doing anything, if I'm not engaging in creative work, I don't feel inspired. But once I force myself to sit down and do something, write something, even if it's bad, that's when creativity and like inspiration and everything starts to flow to me because you're activating your mind. It's not like this passive thing where it just hits you. You need to start, no matter how bad you think it is or in whatever way, just like do the work.
I love it so much. That's amazing. It also made me think like what the first thing you were talking about with free writing, when you talk about like your subconscious coming to your conscious and like that's how you figure things out a lot of the time. I wanted to add like it's also other reason why I think it works so well is because you get the social expectations of others in society out of your mind. Like it just is
Yes.
true to you when you're writing because you're just writing like from yourself and what's true to yourself because no one is looking at it. You're not saying like what you think you should do. You're just free writing, and that's what happens without like your brain and like your fear alarms going off. It's like the whole reason it took me so long to figure out it didn't take me that long, but to figure out I should leave and like that gave me the courage to do it is I realized through that writing was like, oh wait, the only reason you are staying here is fear of judgment to please your family, to please society. It's the guilt of like going to a college preparatory school my whole life and then
Yeah.
leaving that and like feeling like my parents like they paid all this money for me to go here and like they didn't come for much and like this was their dream for their kid. So I felt like that's another important thing because like that's like everyone has these social fears and expectations like in their back of their mind that's like really clouds your judgment of like what's true to you. So it's really good to write because helps realize like, wait, what do I actually want, and what am I doing just because I'm scared to please and displease someone or something. And also I love what you said about creativity. It's also like something I loved is that like Yanis is my boyfriend. His dad was like playing his guitar the other day, and I was like asking if he ever took lessons or something, or like how did he learn to get good. He was like, no, I didn't take lessons because like if I were to take lessons I would have just sounded like everyone else. He was like,
Oh,
Bob
that's such an
Dylan.
interesting perspective.
I
I love
know.
that.
I know. And like he was like Bob Dylan and Bob Dylan out here, and then Will was like, my brother was like, well, what about like singing? Like I wish I could sing, but I wish I could sing and then I could play music. And he was like, I can't sing. He was like, Bob Dylan can sing. He was like, that is not what it's about. Like it's about just like doing like expressing yourself through
Yeah.
a certain medium. And he wants to like as a musician express himself through music, and he plays the way that sounds good to him. He doesn't take a lesson or else sound like everyone else. So like creativity is no manual to being creative. It's just sitting with yourself and like literally expressing yourself, and then it comes natural. Like there's no thinking really with creativity.
Yeah.
That's the thing about like humans. Like if you feel like you're a creative person, but I also think everyone has creativity in them. Like you would just start doing like you start doing the things that you enjoy, and then it all flows. But the problem is what we're talking about is if you get scared to do those things or figuring out what it is, but we're trying to help you with that. But like, yeah, I don't think
Exactly.
it makes
And
sense.
that's 100%. And I recently read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Elizabeth Gilbert is obviously the writer of Eat, Pray, Love, which it's my Bible. So she wrote Big Magic, which is more of a memoir about her creativity and her journey as a writer. And she says something that really cracked open my mind. And it sounds basic and like you should know it, but it's really something that the way she phrased it was just like wow for me. And she said that as a society, we're so often like we go into creativity or creative pursuits and we immediately put pressure on ourselves to either be good or to make money out of it. And we took out all of the play out of creativity because like creativity really is just being able to play without expecting applause. Like we were all so creative when we were younger, right? We would build sandcastles or we would draw or we would write or whatever. And we didn't fear criticism, we didn't expect praise. It was just a way of being. Whereas now, when you're an adult, it's so easy to compartmentalize life and then creative pursuits. And if you do creative pursuits, are you doing it to improve yourself or are you doing it to make money or are you doing it because, you want to become an influencer or there's no room for just playing, just being and like doing it maybe in a space where you're connecting with other people who also love doing it. So she said, like, take the pressure away and just play and see what happens. And once I started doing that, sometimes, yes, it snowballs into something that you actually maybe do want to put out there. But once I started like playing, that's when the podcast idea came up for me because I realized something I love doing is walking around and like taking voice recordings of myself when I do long walks on my travels. And I find myself so entertaining, honestly. I think I'm so funny. So I would be laughing at myself, telling like stories about what happened that day. And after a while, I was like, it's just flowing because I'm not putting any pressure on it. But wow, this actually could be something that can be useful to somebody else or fun to listen to. There are people out there who are also trying to figure out their 20s and figure out creativity and want to travel and all of these things. But it really started with just taking away the pressure, you know, just playing. And I thought that was so beautiful the way she put it.
Oh, I love that. That is amazing. It's really so true. Like, I never thought about it like that. Like, just play. Like, I would also love to just move on to a little bit about your travels now after we talk all about the writing and the life lessons. We can also go back to that, but I really love that. I feel all rejuvenated.
Yeah,
um,
same.
but I'd love to hear just like in general about your journey and the places that you were, like maybe just unpack whichever way, like and you can start whichever country or whatever, just like some of the core memories that you have, people that you've met, things you learned about yourself, ways your perspective shifted. Like honestly, there's not like a certain answer you have to have. Just like I'd love to just talk about your personal experiences during your travels and whatever you want to share with people.
Well, I think the place where I want to start would be the US, because I went there not knowing what to expect. It was really my first big solo travel journey. And I just met on my little weekends away I would solo travel to these different places. And that's the first time I ever stayed in a hostel and met other travelers who, like, as a lifestyle, stay in hostels. And I would meet these people and I'm like, you're so cool. Like, you've been to all these places, you're doing this long term. You're just like so open minded and nice and kind. And how can I be like that? Teach me your ways. And now that I've traveled for 2 years, you realize that's such a common thing to encounter if you're traveling, because everybody who lives this lifestyle, or most of the people, usually are pretty like open minded, nice people with really interesting life experience. But at the beginning, it was like, this is so new. And these people are my role models, right? So I vividly remember being in Wilmington, North Carolina. That was my first little solo weekend away from university. I got on a Greyhound bus. I think it was like an overnight bus, actually. All my US friends, like from the university, my American friends, they're like, you're getting on a Greyhound bus by yourself. Are we sure about this? I'm like, yeah, why not? And I also remember I met this at the stopover. There was this guy who came to talk to me, and he told me that he wanted, or he was going somewhere else. He was getting on a different bus, not the Wilmington bus. So I was like, okay, it's not going to hurt to talk to him for like 20 minutes while we wait for the next bus. Lo and behold, I go sit down, and he comes to sit right next to me. And for the next 3 hours, this man is just telling me about his used car business. We stop at the other side. We stop in Wilmington. Two things came out. One, he got on the wrong bus just to sit next to me for 3 hours. He was actually supposed to go see like his parole officer or something, because during this time he also divulged to me that he like just got out of prison for drug smuggling. It was it was crazy. I really met a few interesting people on the Greyhound bus system in the US. But anyway, nice guy. So I get to Wilmington and I meet this girl from New Zealand at the hostel, and we spent the day together at the beach. And I just have this vivid memory of swimming in the ocean. She was at the time 19, and I was in my final year of university, so I was 22. And she just seemed so mature because she had been for a year just solo traveling. And I asked her, like, what are your plans? And she said, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just gonna kind of go with the flow. And that was the first time I realized you could actually live like that. I've wanted to live like that always, but I just didn't know it was actually possible. And here's somebody who is 19 doing it, going for it. And that just opened my mind to the possibilities. So that's somebody who definitely had an impact on me. The first person I kind of met who was living this type of nomadic lifestyle. And then from there, some of my favorite memories, and I think one country and one culture that really broke the mold for me was Argentina. I think Buenos Aires and Argentinian culture is really something that completely changed my worldview on cities and working life. And they have the most amazing, well-rounded, mentally healthy, friendly people that I've ever met. And I think they just like mix European culture so well with South American culture, but also with like work-life balance and everything, because they have something that I like to call mate culture. So if you've been to Argentina or Uruguay, you know they drink mate, right? It's a type of green tea, but they consume it like coffee, just 10 times more. And they make it in this special cup. And if you're usually you drink it in a group and you pass the one cup around, and somebody would like finish the mate that's in the cup, and somebody else would then throw more boiling water on the little mate leaves, or what shebra, you call it shebra. And then you pass it on to the next person. And it's this whole community of 5 o'clock. The parks are full. It's just young people, old people, everybody sitting in these little groups, having mate and passing the cup around and just talking. I've never met a culture who talks so much about everything. Like, it's not, you don't see people walking around on their phones or sitting next to each other on their phones. People are just always having conversations. It is such a beautiful city. It's my favorite city in the whole world. It's like I said, Paris meets Madrid meets like South American zest with a little bit of New York in there. It's amazing. And I really think this mate culture of like sharing and sitting and just being together, their social life is so integrated with their lives. You would just go about your day, and next thing you know, you're with like 10 really cool people in a park or having lunch, or it's not something that you need to schedule. It just happens. And seeing how they live, how they're productive and they work hard, but it's also so chill and kind of slow life and really balanced, and they really integrate social aspects and community into their everyday lives. that made me think very differently of how I approach work. And this idea of the grind, like it just doesn't exist for them. They would go to work at like 10, 11, and then get off, take a nap, maybe somewhere in between, and then get off work at 5, 6 and go to the park and just chat to friends. And it was just a beautiful culture and it taught me a lot. So I think Buenos Aires is one of my favorite cities in the world.
I love that. I really want to go. The reason I was like laughing so much is because Yanis is like obsessed. I told you with Mate, Argentina is Mate. Yeah, but anyway, Yanis just like loves it.
You know what's cute? I feel like there's some things in certain cultures that it's such a stereotype of that culture, but because it's a stereotype, a lot of people will rebel against it. Can you help me think of I can't think of an example right now. But okay, let's say like Afrikaans culture. A big part of the culture is like Afrikaans kind of country music. And so a lot of the people will rebel against that. So you always have this thing that is a stereotype and people love it and people hate it. Mate? No. Every single Argentinian person loves mate, no exception. And they're so patriotic about it. So that was really nice for me to see as well.
No, I love it. I'm can't wait to tell Yanis that you mentioned that. He'll be so happy. And I would love to hear more about your time, I guess some of your other core memories that you had in Argentina. And then like maybe we can move on to Nicaragua after that. If you have any things, any people you met, memorable pocket memories that you feel like you'll be talking about telling people for the rest of your life or things you learned. It's really like open. I just like to hear about your travels and like I really want to people that are listening just to like kind of just like hear like they see you on Instagram on social media, but like it's I really want people to like actually get to like hear like what is she actually doing?
Yeah.
What is it like? The things that you don't post, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, wow. I think some of the most influential people I've met, the first person that comes to mind is this guy I met in Buenos Aires. That was actually the reason why I stayed 2 months in Buenos Aires. Seriously, one of the best people I've ever met. We had a beautiful little romance, and sadly, my lifestyle, I had to say goodbye. But he really impacted me a lot. He showed me what like real, soft, beautiful love should feel like. And I think that I'll always think back to that and back to him about what I learned and who knows what the future holds. But yeah, I think that's something that impacted me a lot. And the friendships I've made. Wow, I mean, one of my best friends right now, this guy from the Dominican Republic, I met him in Brazil. And I was traveling over New Year's, Christmas time, and he invited me to come for just stay over Christmas and New Year's time with him and his family in the Dominican Republic. So I had this beautiful local experience in Santo Domingo with like me and his whole family who could not speak English. So he would be like translating between them, between me. And I'm like eating his mom's home cooking. That was so special. Core memory. I have a really crazy memory of Uruguay where I stayed in this hostel in Colonia del Sacramento, which is right across the border from Buenos Aires. And I stayed there for a couple of days, and then I took a bus up to Punta del Este, which is in the north of the country. And my plan was to stay there for a couple of days and then go to Montevideo, which is the capital, and fly from there to the Dominican Republic. So this was just before Christmas time. And on my bus ride from Colonia to the north to Punta del Este, I get a call from my hostel. And they're like, ma'am, we found your passport on the street, like 10 minutes away from the hostel. What happened? And I was so lucky that somebody from the hostel who recognized me picked up my passport and knew that I was staying at that hostel. Oh, so I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I can't go back now. I can't get on a bus back. Can you please mail it to me to Punta del Este? They said it's going to take like 3, 4 days. And I'm not planning to be that long in that town. So I said, okay, can you mail it to Montevideo, which is the capital where I'm flying out from? And then I'll just get it there. Fine, great. Everything works out. They mail it there. I continue with my life. I'm having a great time. I completely forget about the fact that they mailed my passport there. So the night before my flight out of the country, the flight out of the country is like 7 a.m. It's 11 p.m. the night before. I'm packing. I'm like, I never went to go pick up my passport. It's at the post office. The post office is probably closed. What am I going to do? Anyway, I go to the post office. Obviously, it's closed. So there's a security guard there, and he's kind of sleeping on his shoulder. So I poke him. I'm like, I need to get in there. I'm pasaporte, I'm trying to explain in my broken Spanish what is going on. And finally, he calls the manager of the post office. And now I'm trying to explain to the manager who also doesn't speak English. And I'm trying to Google Translate to the security guard who then translates to the manager. Eventually, like around midnight, the manager, he's so mad at me. He arrives in his car, he's in his bathrobe, but he's like, he doesn't even want to talk to me, but he's opening the post office and he gives me my passport. Wow, crazy. And I make it onto the flight the next morning. I'm in the Dominican Republic. So that's something that I'll probably tell for a while.
No way. That is crazy. I
Yeah.
cannot believe that actually happened.
It's
I'm
crazy. I
so
don't,
glad that there was a security guard there, first of all. Like, I don't know.
no,
There
I
could have
don't,
not been. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know what you would have done.
because I'm budget traveling, I did not book a refundable flight.
Yeah.
And that was an expensive flight. I mean, I really hope my parents don't hear this episode because I've done some really irresponsible things. My first day on Ometepe Island in Nicaragua, you asked about Nicaragua. That place has my heart. It's such a beautiful country, especially Ometepe Island. People have been there. There's just an energy. And my first day there, I decide to rent a little motorbike because that's what everybody's doing, or a scooter, whatever you would call it. But I've never driven one of these ever. And so I go up to this little local store, and this teenager, he looks me up and down. He's like, "Have you ever ridden one of these before?" And I said, "No." He says, "Okay, cool." He gives me the keys. He watches me ride around the tree and almost fall a few times. He's like, "You're free to go. Just don't speed." So I go, and I pretty quickly become comfortable on it. Because I grew up on a farm riding like four-wheelers and stuff. So I'm pretty comfortable with speed. And I get comfortable on this thing and I just start overtaking locals and I'm having so much fun. And if you do the whole round of the island, it's probably 2.5 hours. And I decide I'm going to do the whole round. But the other side of the island is just gravel roads, dirt roads. But anyway, by the time I get there, I'm so comfortable. I'm also not wearing my helmet. So I'm like speeding up these gravel mountain roads, whatever. And obviously, I skid on a rock. And next thing I know, the bike flies that way. I fly this way. I had to pay so much money to repair that bike. My knees were like, I literally still have scars on my knees from this. My arms were open. And two local guys came up on horses and they're just like shaking their heads at me. And they helped me up. They picked the bike up. They put me on the bike. They put my helmet on my head and they're like, "No, helmet." Yeah. So stuff like that. It's I got this matching tattoo with two girls I met in San Juan del Sur in Nicaragua. We knew each other one day. We had a whole like trauma bond thing, and we just decided to get matching tattoos. Never saw them again. But it's stuff like that, I'll tell those stories till I'm 80.
Oh my goodness, that's so hilarious. But I'm really glad you're okay able to buy.
It could have been much worse.
Also, the funniest thing is like, I don't know if you experience this, but like, I always have this thing where I'm like at the airport and I'm like, sitting here and I'm like, everyone looks so normal. They look so put together. I'm like, am I the only one that just had this most chaotic experience either at the airport or like when I came to Europe this past time, the lady was so rude to me and probably valid, but like, I thought I had more money in my debit card. I don't have a credit card because like I'm too scared that I would go off the rails with a credit card. Like, don't give me a credit card
Same.
until I'm good budgeting. So it's
Yeah.
a debit card, so I only go off the money I have. And like something went wrong with my calculation in my head. I guess I had this much money, but apparently not. And she was like, "Well, your card's not working. Your card's not working. It's declining." I was like, "No, I have this much money. I remember." And she was like, "Call your bank." And I called them, and the bank was mean to me. She's like, "Oh, you do see the amount that you have on your credit card or debit card?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it's like 300 or something." And I was like, "That's enough for me to pay for my bag." Because it was like the same thing that you said earlier where like I had like freelancer money coming in soon, but I was like, just like
Yeah.
2 days, it's coming. I can
Yeah.
get by with this much. And they were like, "No, you're in the negatives." And so anyway, and then I was like, "Oh, wait, but I have like US cash. I can pay." But then in order to like, anyway, nothing was working for my card. So then I had to like at the gate, like at the check-in counter, like call my sister, like, "Can you please sell me money? Let me please."
No matter how put together somebody looks, like you have some crazy story, some scars, something happened, and you're probably freaking out internally too. So we're all fine. We're
Yeah.
all gonna get through it.
That's actually that's a good point. Like my stepsister is the most put together like looking person in the world. She always like fashion would look so good. Everything's so put together, organized, but then like we'll be chatting and she tells me the most unhinged story. I'm like, I will not expect that from you, but it's like
Yeah.
you make me feel like I'm a little less. It makes you feel even more relatable because you always look so put together. Anyway, sorry, that was a side note, but I was just like, I always have that little like my little glasses out there. Everyone looks so normal. Okay. So I really want to hear about Nicaragua and India, if you don't mind. And I'll shut up.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get so excited working with you. You're so fun.
I know, it's so fun. Seriously, it is. I love connecting with you. This is like a match made in heaven.
I know. It's like every time you say something, I'm like, there's no way. She's just said that. But yeah, I'll shut up now.
No, please butt in whenever you want. But yeah, so Nicaragua was such a beautiful time for me because I lived on Ometepe Island for a month and a half, and I actually flew out from Ometepe, or not from Ometepe, but that was my last destination when I found out my granddad died. So I was planning to go more up like Guatemala, Mexico, everything, but I kind of am glad I ended up getting stuck on Ometepe Island because the people I met there were just so soul nourishing. And the place, I don't know if you've heard a lot about it, but people call it like hippie paradise. um, yeah, it's like all these travelers that go there. I was living on a permaculture farm for like literally $5 a night, and we were basically sleeping outside. So it was these like bug nets, and you have just spiders crawling over you. You're showering outside. We have compost toilets, and then all these free workshops every day. So free yoga, free breathing exercise classes, and everybody who lives there just looks like they just came straight out of the 60s. It's amazing. The place where I stayed was like all organic vegetarian food that they farmed right there. It was truly special, and the people I met were so grounding and helped me through a lot. So I ended up staying a really long time. Yeah, that was special. I love Nicaragua. But then India, it's something really different. Wow, it has exceeded all my expectations. Firstly, I want to say that the whole like chaotic, poverty, unsafe for women stereotype is just that. It's a stereotype. Of course, in the big cities, like you have the honking, you have the like busyness. There's so many people, but it's alive. It's not like crazy in a negative way. And something I've had to learn pretty quickly is the honking is so friendly. It's never road rage. It's always like, I'm gonna squeeze past you in this impossibly small gap. Honk honk, look out. I'm behind you. So it's never like aggressive or angry. It's just how the flow works. And people here are so kind. Like the amount of times I would meet strangers, they would sit next to me at a little restaurant, or we would just start chatting on the street, and they would invite me into their home to cook for me just because they're curious about why I'm in their country and, want to find out more about my country and my culture. And it's just this beautiful exchange of cultures and people being curious about each other. Something I'm really frustrated with about Europe and being a tourist in Europe is the locals really don't always like tourists. They have this animosity towards tourists, especially in bigger places like Paris, which you can get, right? But if you're going to places like Nicaragua and like India, where there's not a lot of tourists, the locals are like, wow, you chose to come here. Let us show you how cool our country is. Let us show you how like nice our locals are. And so it's just such a like deeper level of cultural exchange, I feel. And I mean, I travel slow. I've been in India for 2 months and I've only been in 3 cities. I stayed in Mumbai for like 6 weeks. And then I was in Jaipur for a week and a half, and I've been here. Well, now it's only more than 2 months because I've been here a week in Jaipur. And also, every single place feels like a different country. The vibe is completely different. You really can't just say that India is like this and everywhere is like this. India is massive, and the culture is so wildly different. There's more than 120 languages being spoken in India. So people dress differently. The food is different. Like this whole thing about Indian food. Also, the north, the south, the food is completely different. So it feels like I'm constantly in a new country, experiencing a new culture. But across the board, people are just so kind and nice. And most of the people here speak perfect English, which is also so nice because in South America, you're like in Costa Rica or in Brazil or in this like Rio de Janeiro, this big tourist city. Nobody speaks English. Whereas here, you can be at a small town in India and everybody speaks English. So it's really easy to travel here too. Super well priced, really great value for money. And I'm obsessed with Indian food. I will never be able to go back. The flavors, especially North Indian food, is just It's so good. So I cannot recommend India enough. I haven't felt unsafe as a female solo traveler once. Like, people are so respectful. Obviously, if I'm in a place where I'm very obviously the only foreigner, people would want to come up to take photos with me. And the men would literally like stand away from me with like a gap. They're so respectful. It's really not pushy. It's, yeah, I can't recommend India enough.
No, that I love to love to hear all of that. Oh, you make me want to like pack up my things and go right now.
Go, go.
Okay, just quickly touch on solo traveling as a female, safety wise, like just a quick, your just quick experience and like how you stay safe, things, places like places that you go, like how do you know like am I safe, am I not, am I safe everywhere? Like of course, like everyone knows, like don't be out like past midnight walking alone at night, but like in general, how do you know like okay, am I gonna be safe here? Just because like as women, like we are always very nervous, even if we shouldn't be, and like stereotypically, we're just, nervous being alone. So I'd love you could
Yeah.
just quickly touch on that.
That's such a great question. And it's a hard one for me to answer because I don't think I'm the most responsible person, and I don't think everybody should take my advice that I'm going to give right now. But I do think that I really just go into everything that I do in life with the mindset of it's going to work out, and usually does. And a lot of people might tell me that you've just been lucky up until this point, but I think there's science behind it. Like if I go into a space and I'm just being myself, you're being kind, you're being like open towards the people you meet, then the locals kind of immediately clock you and they get protective of you. I mean, I was in this situation in Bombay and Mumbai, um, where I had this local coffee shop. And I was just always like nice to the people there. I started making friends with the baristas. And I was sitting in the coffee shop one day, and this guy came in and he wanted to start talking to me. And the barista literally came up. And she's never done this before. I've been in this coffee shop so many times. She came up, she stood next to me, and she looked the guy straight in the eyes and she said, "Don't mess with that girl." And he just walked out. And afterwards, I asked her, what was that about? And she said, like, they know him. He's like a troublemaker in the area. And I was like, wow, that's so nice. So firstly, I think if you put out positive energy, you will attract positive people and connections who will really want to look out for you. Because you don't want to lead with fear, right? But don't be stupid. I think a woman's intuition is a really, really strong thing. And if you feel something is off, just follow that intuition. Don't question it. Just, if you know this is not right for you. And also, I think the more you solo travel, you start to really trust yourself and your intuition and your interactions with other people. Just follow that trust. That's not a very actionable, great answer, but that's kind of how I do it.
No, thank you. Could you just also do a quick overview of how you meet people while solo traveling? Like if you're only in a place for, I don't know, 10 days or something, how do you make those connections? Because like it's so easy to just sit in your room and be like, I'm not really meeting anyone.
Yeah.
Going to a bar and expecting everyone to come up to you. But what's your overview of how you meet people?
That really depends on where you are in the world. Like, for instance, something I love about Buenos Aires is it's like this big digital nomad hub. So everywhere, like almost every night of the week at a different bar or a different social event or something for digital nomads, and you can just rock up and people are going to be there to meet people. So everybody's going to be super open. So for me there, it was very easy to stay in an apartment and go out and meet people and make friends without necessarily having to be in a hostel or all the time. Because then you also meet people at stuff like that where they're there longer, they're looking for more settled friendships than maybe people who are in hostels who are just there for a couple of days. Other times I would, like in India, when I was in Mumbai, I came there, I stayed in a hostel for like 5 days. I met a bunch of people, I met locals, I made friends, and then I would move to an Airbnb so that I could focus more on my work. But then I already know people. And usually, if you make a few friends with really nice locals, they'll invite you to their friend gatherings and then you meet new people. But also, usually the big cities, they have these really wonderful like meetups or cooking classes or cinema nights or whatever. Like, go to those things and do it, and you're going to meet people. Right now, I'm staying in a hostel where I have a private room, but like there's a really nice common space. So at night, you just be in the common space. And if you see people sitting around, just know that a lot of people are traveling by themselves. Or if they're not, they're open to meeting new people. So I would literally just, if somebody looks nice, I'd ask them, "Can I join you?" And they'll always be like, "Yeah, sure." And then a conversation ensues and, you make friends. And But I think it's also important to know how to spend time with yourself. And once you're okay with you, it's just so much easier to attract people because you don't have like some kind of like negative or needy energy. You can be fine by yourself. And once you have that like fulfilled, quiet confidence, then you just attract people and it feels easy and it flows. That's my take on it.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. There's so many things I could add, but we're gonna keep it short. But thank you so much. And
I want to hear you too. I want to hear your take too, though.
for me, the things that I used actually was Bumble BFF. I found some of my best friends through it. I love it. And just make your profile as detailed and unique to you as possible. Add some photos that you feel like really represent you. Make it really detailed, and you'll attract the right people. Some of my best friends I met there. Also, hostels, of course. And then the app Meetup is really good.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, it's just like in different cities, they have like free events, some that are paid, but it's a good way to meet people. And I'm trying to think. Also, like your group trips, like the ones you're doing, are also really good to meet people. A lot of people go on their own, so I would check out your trip. But like to be honest, I struggle sometimes with going out and meeting people when I'm with Yenny's. Like right now, we're living together, and like we love hanging out with each other so much. So sometimes I'm like, okay, I need to go meet people. Like we have so much fun together, and I'm like, okay, Mary, but you do want to meet people, right? Like you do want to make. I should go out. So it's always easier when I'm alone, I would say, to go meet friends when like we're doing long distance. Anyway, that's like my quick take. Like lastly, I just want to ask you if there's anything that we talked about or that we didn't talk about that you wanted to share, like whether it's a story that you wanted to share, I don't know, a piece of advice.
I think I just want to tell anybody listening to this who maybe feels a little bit lost. Maybe they haven't got it all figured out yet. Like, you really don't have to have it all figured out. You can just follow your passion, that little thing that burns in you, the little thing that gives you butterflies when you do it, when you're doing work that excites you, when you're meeting people that excite you, or you're in new places, or whatever it is you love and you feel that little butterflies, the burn of passion, follow that. That's literally a torchlight leading you to the person you're becoming and who you need to become. And just like do it like your life depends on it, because it does, literally. So that's my last thing I want to say.
Thank you. And then I also remembered I wanted to ask if there's a cause or issue that you're passionate about. And you can just like say what the issue is, and then I could just link a place for people to donate. I just want to try to encourage people to, donate to causes that the guests are passionate about. Even if it's just like $1, if 5 people donate $1, it's one step closer. But you don't have to go into detail. I know we're close to time. But
I'm really passionate about ethical tourism, like arriving in a place and just being curious about the culture and open and not having this mindset of like, I'm here to bestow my dollars upon you, just go to a place and move with their rhythms, learn how to adapt, be curious. And I don't know if we can find a cause where it helps that, but I'm not sure. But the concept of ethical tourism, and that's just really important to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I really appreciate all of your time and wisdom and stories. Like I've literally had a blast. Like I could talk to you for hours and hours on end.
So,
But I know that we both, need to get back to work. But I'm so, so grateful for you. And I'm really, really happy that we got to connect. And I can't wait to also connect like after this. We can exchange numbers and everything. Maybe one day we can travel together or something. That would be so fun. But yeah, I really appreciate it. And lastly, how can people connect with you if they wanted to reach out, or like where can they find your group trips, your writing, all of the things?
Yeah. So if you want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at Carmen Viet. I'm sure you'll link it. And all my links are also in my Instagram bio, but otherwise you can just go to carmenviet.blog, and there you'll find more info about my group trip coming up in December. And you can listen to my podcast, Lost and Found with Carmen Viet, anywhere you listen to your podcast, like Apple, Spotify, wherever. And a link to that would also be on my blog or through my social media. Yeah, right now, that's about it.
Perfect. Well, it's been a pleasure, and thank you so, so much.
Yeah, it was lovely. Thank you, Mary.
Okay, thanks so much for listening and for spending this time with me in a slightly different way than usual. Big love to Mary and the Kindred Roads community for holding space for this conversation. If this episode stirred something in you, go check out the full Kindred Roads podcast. I'll also leave a link in the show notes to the video interview, which is quite interesting to see. And as always, If Lost and Found has been keeping you company on your own winding road, I'd love it if you shared the show, left a review, or sent an episode to someone who might need to hear it. Anyway, until next time, keep following the threads that tug at your heart, even if they lead you somewhere unexpected. Don't be afraid to get a little lost. That's where the magic finds you. Until next time.